Would you pick yourself? Not your title, not your results, but the actual you, the leader underneath both of those? What about your team? If your team could choose who leads them from scratch, not because of the org chart and not because of history, would they choose you again? I want you to think back to grade school for just a second. Before you ever played something like Red Rover or Dodgeball, someone had to pick the teams. There were two captains standing in front of the line, calling names one at a time. And you already know how that went. The fastest kid went first, the strongest kid second. Whoever gave the team the best shot at winning, well, they got picked early. Everyone else waited. Everyone kept count of exactly where they were picked. Nobody taught the captains to lead that way. They just knew who to pick to help them win right now. And here's the question underneath all of it. Are you still leading like a captain picking for today's game? Or are you leading like someone who picks for who a person could become? That's what we're getting into today. Hi, friend. If we haven't met yet, I'm Christina Ryan. I'm a faith-based purpose and leadership coach, and I help driven leaders find the difference between managing people and actually developing them so they can lead in a way that's worth following. Today, we are in week 7 of our Summer on Purpose series. We're in the relationships phase. It's the season where we're looking at the people around us and how we actually are showing up for them. Today is about one idea looked at in 3 ways. What transformational leadership actually looks like, where it comes from, and what it costs you to lead that way. Here's where we start. Today's first key is understanding the difference between transactional and transformational leadership. Transactional leadership runs on an exchange. You do this and you get that. You hit the number and you keep the job. Miss it and there are consequences. It's not evil, it's just limited. It manages behavior, but it doesn't build anyone. Transformational leadership runs on something else entirely. It's focused on the growth and the value of the people that you lead, not just the output that you can extract from them. And here's how you can actually tell the difference, not just to define it. It's not about whether the scorecard is the same. It probably is exactly the same for every person on your team, and it's often yours to change. It's about how you respond when performance dips. A transactional leader handles it the same way with everyone, no matter who they're leading. But a transformational leader knows that people aren't wired the same and leads each one towards that same scorecard differently according to what actually moves them. This is where knowing your purpose changes everything for you and for your team. The purpose factor assessment gives you language to describe how the puzzle pieces all fit together and even helps you know what's missing. I'm a recruiter. It's my natural advantage. And that means I'm energized by drawing people in, building shared mission, connecting people to something that's bigger than a task list. If someone led me only by tracking my numbers and never inviting me into the bigger picture, they'd be managing my behavior. They wouldn't be developing me. I need vision, not just a scoreboard. Your team is the same. Someone with a builder's natural advantage is energized by starting something new and moving it on to the next idea. Give them a blank page, but don't give them a rigid checklist. Someone with an overseer's natural advantage is nearly the opposite. They're energized by staying with what's already started, creating order, and making sure it doesn't fall apart. Give them the process to own, not another blank page. And that's how you see the one person clearly. Mapping your whole team works the same way, just wider. It starts with a simple question. What's the most fulfilling moment you've had at work? And then works backwards from there to confirm how each person is actually wired to contribute. Once everyone's story is on the table, you start to see it. The different strengths sitting right next to each other on your team. The ones you've been underusing without realizing it, and what it actually takes to lead each person from their best, instead of hoping they'll just adjust to yours. And that's the real divide between a mediocre leader and a high achiever. A mediocre leader just manages circumstances, whoever's easiest to direct, whatever's in front of them. A high achiever leads the vision each person actually carries, even when it means leading 5 different people 5 different ways. Philippians 2 puts words to this. Paul writes that we should value others above ourselves, not looking to our own interests, but to theirs. That's not a suggestion for how to be nice. That's a description of transformational leadership. Building your team around who they actually are and not around what's easiest for you to manage. So that's what it looks like. But now here's the harder question. Where does that kind of leadership actually come from? And that brings us to our second key. Transformational leadership starts with being blessed to be a blessing. Most leaders pray for their plans to work. Fewer leaders ask whether their plans are actually the ones worth blessing. Here's a question worth sitting with. Which of your current goals, your current projects, your daily stress are actually something building toward something that's bigger than you? Or which ones are ladders leaning up against your own expectations, propped up against what you wanted and not what you were actually called to build? Because there's a real difference between asking God to bless your plans and asking God how you can align with His. One keeps you in charge and asks for cooperation. The other hands over the plan and asks for direction. 1 Peter 4 says it plainly. Each of us has received a gift, and we're meant to use it to serve others, not to serve our own advancement, and not to chase the version of success we decided on before we asked. This is the same posture that made Key 1 possible in the first place. I love how Bob Goff says it. He says, don't measure your progress by their progress, and don't measure their progress by yours. Once you actually know what someone's wired to do, you can stop expecting a craftsman to move at a strategist's pace, or someone who's wired to build relationships to find fulfillment doing quiet, solitary work alone. Every person on your team is headed on their own timeline toward their own calling. Your job isn't to make them keep up with your pace. Your job is to help them find theirs. So transformational leadership, it isn't a technique that you adopt. It's what happens when you stop leading from what you want from people and start leading from what you were already given to offer them. And that's where it comes from. But knowing where it comes from doesn't actually make it easy to do, which is our third key. What does transformational leadership actually cost you? I want you to go back to the question that I opened with. Would you pick yourself? What makes that question so hard to answer isn't skill, it's bravery. John Acuff says bravery is the only thing successful people actually have in common. Not talent, not connections, not even a perfect plan. It takes bravery to lead 5 people 5 different ways instead of one easy way. It takes bravery to stop measuring everyone against your own pace And bravery for a leader usually comes down to one choice. Are you being led by the fear of failure or by the vision of a great opportunity? Both are in front of you at the same time, but only one of them is worth following. And here's what makes that choice a little harder than it sounds. You see, failure isn't actually the thing to be afraid of. It's succeeding at something that doesn't matter. You could hit every number this quarter, keep every seat filled, and satisfy every expectation on paper, and still have led the easy, transactional way the whole time. That's the trap purpose exists to protect you from. Without it, you don't just risk wandering aimlessly, you risk succeeding, but in all the wrong things. So ask it one more time. Would you pick yourself? Not because you're perfect, but because you actually took the time to know the people that you're leading. You had the courage to lead them that way instead of the easier one. Now that question doesn't fully answer itself. Not quite yet. There's still one more layer underneath. How many times have you said thank you to someone on your team and not actually thought about what that means? Proverbs 18:21 says, "The tongue holds the power of life and death." Thank you is one of the smallest phrases you say all day, and it still carries that weight. Toss it out on your way to the next meeting, and it's just a habit. But say it and mean it, and you're speaking life over someone who needed to hear it. Sit with that for just a minute, because thank you, it isn't just a closing line. It carries an IOU, a responsibility to actually see that person for who they are and to keep becoming the kind of leader who's worth their trust. You don't have to have this all figured out to start leading differently today. You just have to stop measuring the wrong things. Stop praying for the wrong outcome. Stop leading everyone the same way when they were never wired the same way. Leaders worth following aren't the ones with the cleanest record. They're the ones who kept choosing the harder, truer path for themselves and for the people that they were responsible for. Friend, if you want to go deeper with this, you can grab this week's reflection guide using the link below. Our challenge this week is what the guide is built around. I'm asking you to ask one person on your team this question. What actually drives you? And do you feel like I lead you that way? Then sit with your own answer before you hear theirs. If that conversation shows you it's time to actually map this out, that's exactly what the purpose factor assessment is for. Take it yourself, have your team take it too. And then I'll come in and lead a session that maps your whole team out so you know exactly how to lead each person and not just manage them. The details are in the back of the reflection guide. I'd love for you to share what you ask and what you hear back with #SummerOnPurpose. Next week, we're asking a slightly harder question. Who's actually getting your energy this season? And whether your calendar agrees with your priorities. Subscribe so you don't miss it next week. And if you know someone who's leading right now, would you send them this one? I'd love to know. Drop a comment and tell me, would you pick yourself? Until next week, live and lead from the light within.